Every personal injury firm needs to have an ethics counsel. I know that sounds self-serving because I'm in the business. In the same way that people going through a catastrophic injury or a personal injury need to know who the person to call is, you need to know who the person to call is when you have an issue that arises. If you're in the situation where the crisis is already struck, you're not going to make the best decision.
Welcome into the Lawyer Rumble podcast. Today we're talking about one of the most important and often overlooked areas of running a personal injury law firm, and that is legal ethics. Our guest today is Ryan Little, founder of Little Legal. Ryan has spent his career in legal ethics, first as a bar prosecutor and now as an ethics counsel, helping lawyers and law firms navigate discipline defense, advertising compliance, trust accounting, risk management, AI, legal tech, and all of the gray areas that come with growing a modern law practice. I'm also joined today by Graham Griffin, Web and Content Manager at Angel Reyes Associates. Graham leads much of our AI adoption, helps integrate new tools into our marketing workflows, and he also brings a practical perspective on how PI firms are actually using the technology, content, and automation every day. Ryan and Graham recently attended a legal ethics conference in San Antonio where a major theme was how quickly this space is changing from social media and AI to state by state rule changes and new legislation. So today we're going to unpack what personal injury lawyers need to know, where the biggest risks are, and how firms can stay aggressive, innovative, and compliant at the same time. Welcome in, Graham and Ryan. Glad you're here.
Thanks, Elliot. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. So, Ryan, let's just jump right into it. What led you from a bar prosecutor to an ethics counsel for lawyers and law firms?
The money. No. No. I was a bar prosecutor for a long time in the state of Hawaii, which it sounds like a made up thing, like McLovin on Superbad where he flashes the Hawaii ID. But no, it's a real job. I was a bar prosecutor in Hawaii. I was working on really highly complex cases. Essentially, what happened is I gave a presentation to a national conference of bar prosecutors on some sort of highly complex and emerging areas in legal ethics. And I just got recruited into a West Coast firm. And I thought, you know what? Wouldn't it be cool to play in, the majors, basically? I'd been doing sort of when you're in the government, you can do high level stuff. But I think there's always, at least for me, there was always a question of could I cut it in private practice? And so they came knocking and it was a good pay raise and we were starting to have kids. And so, yeah, I made the jump.
Terrific.
Awesome. Well, you and I were recently at that conference, like Elliot mentioned, down in San Antonio. That was the April conference. It was the
That's the
first time.
Association of Professional Responsibility Lawyers for those of you keeping track at home.
There you go. For anybody that doesn't know, Ryan's very involved. That was my first time there, and it was really fascinating to see a lot of the discussion about where everything's going. Because I'm the guy that's probably most at risk for breaking the rules on behalf of
Sure.
firms. But I'd love to get your take from the other side of kind of some of the big things we talked about and where things are going.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of legal advertising, I don't know that there is an area that is changing faster. Perhaps, the private equity and MSO market, but in terms of what we're seeing like rapid evolution, it's all legal advertising. I think that what's an interesting trend in that space is that it's not just the types of advertising and the cost of advertising. Billboards are no longer the standard for an advertising firm. Now it's what's your social presence look like? Can you reach people through Instagram? How's your LinkedIn look? Do you have a good referral network it's a digital platform base? I think AI is amplifying that change. Graham, you and I talked about it. The ability to create an AI avatar for a brand name lawyer, somebody whose face is on the billboard, whose name is on the door. The ability to do that and do it quickly and do it cheaply is absolutely revolutionary. You're no longer having to have the name brand guy take a day off work. He's no longer having to get into makeup. You're not worried about if his face is bloated or if he drank too much the night before. The avatar, this digital representation of this person is always ready to go. Will say whatever you want him to say. Will deliver the line perfectly and won't argue with you. So, and this is a tectonic shift. And that's just the avatar space. But then you start thinking about the other creative side of things. The ability to make more audacious commercials, more creative advertising, all of it through AI. I mean, during the conference, we showed a number of commercials that were AI generated. And I remember throwing it to Graham and asking, what would this commercial have cost to produce 5 years ago? One of them, it was, probably $10 million. And what would it cost to produce now with with a modern AI engine? And it was about $10,000. That, I mean, the collapsing of advertising content generation costs is an enormous theme right now,
True.
specifically in consumer law. Now, I think the other sort of interesting paradigm shift is that we have been, since the Bates versus Arizona case in the 1970s, that's a Supreme Court case that made it legal for lawyers to advertise. Since that case, we have been in an age of general deregulation of lawyer advertising. So people are testing the waters and seeing what they can, what kind of content is acceptable to the various state bars across the country. But over the last maybe 2 to 3 years, I've started to see a trend nationally of re-regulation of lawyer advertising. California, which is the biggest market, my firm's biggest market, there was a bill called SB 37 that was passed in 2025. That was a huge shift in terms of what types of content are acceptable. It also created a sort of signaled the death knell of lead generation in California. It's just been an enormous shift, and there's bills all across the country. Alabama, which is another market that we're really active in, Alabama just did a full rewrite of its advertising rules, and they're not the only states that are doing this. So this is a huge shift, and it seems to be accelerating both in terms of the changes that are going on in the what's capable creatively space, but also in terms of what's going on the regulatory side.
Definitely. Well, from there, you mentioned something interesting in there, and I'll use it to kind of segue into this question that we got up lined up next. But you said that you could make a lawyer say anything
Mhm.
with that avatar. That seems pretty dangerous, and as the guy that can make those avatars do it,
Yeah.
seems like that would be a pretty big risk that a lot
Mhm.
of firms could be running into in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah, you better trust your content creation team. And I think it also, I think this is still on net, because I do have a lot of clients that are doing avatar work. I tell them on net this is still gonna save them money, but the downside is, they're having to call me more and more. "Hey, can you vet this individual ad? Can you take a look at the script that we wanna feed the AI and make sure it looks good?" And that's good from both a, general risk management standpoint, but also sort of it's also good from the specific case that they're dealing with, which is we have our name brand lawyer who is the primary case generation engine for our firm. We have him or her in this ad, and we want to make sure that we're protecting the golden goose. And so I think it underscores the need to have risk management counsel or ethics counsel involved at that point.
Definitely. PI firms, needless to say, are pretty heavy in the marketing space. What do they need to talk about before they launch these ads, campaigns, social media content, whatever it be? What should those discussions really look like?
Yeah, I think the first thing that when you're creating a content strategy or a content rollout, it's really important to make sure that that your guiding light is this honest? Are we being misleading? While a lot of what we've seen in the re-regulation of legal advertising has been a trend toward snuffing out ads that are sort of either intentionally dishonest or dishonest by some sort of omission, those are the ads that a state bar is likely to prosecute. The benefit for consumer law practices, PI practices, is that proving intentional dishonesty, proving intent is generally really hard, but litigating that's really expensive. And what I tell clients all the time is, yeah, if you wanted to go with that content, or if you wanted to use those words, or if you wanted to use this, this image, we could probably defend it. But my job is equally not just to get you out of trouble, but to keep you out of trouble. Is it worth it to spend 40 to 50 grand fighting a bar complaint on this? For certain firms, for certain of my clients, and 'cause I do represent a number of really, really big firms, it is for them. But for the average, 20 to 30 lawyer firm or below, it's probably not. And so I think the first the sort of the guiding light is this dishonest? Could it be interpreted as dishonest? And then I think the other thing is, before you run anything, before you, put it to print, or before you, upload the video, or run the ad, make sure that you do have somebody take a look at it. Make sure you do have ethics counsel. I mean, that's what we're here for. And if you don't have a good ethics lawyer, give me a call. I may not be able to represent you. I'm not licensed in every state, but I'm on the board of the Association of Professional Responsibility Lawyers, which is the largest legal ethics bar in the United States. And so I know everybody. So if you're in a state that I'm not licensed in, I can point you in the right direction.
Definitely. I'm gonna go a little off script here just because I'm curious. You mentioned potentially problematic creatives. Have you seen any, or you got any specific examples you can point to of things that you've come across over the last year or so?
No, I don't think that I have any really bad examples of, problematic creative per se. I think that most of my clients that are running ads are fairly sophisticated, and so they understand the lines that they need to color inside. A lot of what we're doing is figuring out whether, a certain position is defensible with the state bar. Do we have cover here? Is there a fallback position? Is this permitted? Can we use a well-known celebrity spokesperson? If so, what do we need to do? I think that's mostly what I've been seeing. And in terms of misleading advertisements generally, though, one of the areas that's getting cracked down on in California is paid for awards. So uh,
Mm.
there's this thing, every lawyer who's watching this has probably been solicited by some awards organization with a really audacious name, the International Lawyers of Excellency and Distinction or something like that. And just for the small fee of $1,000, you too can become a member of this elite club. And I think those are starting to catch a lot more scrutiny because if you're a client and you're trying to assess whether a lawyer is a good lawyer or not, and
So
you get an email from a firm you're, interviewing, and it has all of these different badges in their email signature from all these sort of fictitious organizations that sound really prestigious. Well, you're not a lawyer. How do you know that this group
actually.
is worth their salt or they're not? And so California's SB 37 bill that I mentioned earlier specifically prohibits references to awards that you had to pay for or that you were only capable of getting by virtue of membership in the organization. And so they're really attacking it. And I think just in general, because it's such a large market, as California goes, so goes the rest of the country.
Definitely.
And I would just, we get solicited from these types of companies every day, and they're in my
Yeah.
inbox all the time. And I started
Some of
in
them are
legal.
worth it.
Yeah.
Some of them are worth it. Some of them are
Well,
totally legit.
yeah. Well, and a lot aren't. But
A
even
lot
then,
aren't.
I think a lot of, attorney firm operators are having a difficult time to be able to tell what's legit, what's not. Like,
Sure.
I have the luxury of being able to take the brand, take their domain, plug it in through some tools that we use to see when this website was even created, what its credibility
Totally.
is. I can do quick checks and make, decisions very quickly, whereas many operators don't. They don't have these tools. They don't know that eliteattorneys.com, it was started 2 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
and they feel great that they got chosen and they feel special. I mean, they're even getting misled.
Sure.
Some of them are
Yeah.
actually buying and, taking part in this and sending to their clients, and they probably have no idea that this is not a legit, organization. It looks good. They said
Yeah.
that they selected us and they had a great criteria, but even they are being misled. So
Yep.
it's really murky, I would think, for especially smaller firms. And
Well, and unfortunately, that's a really good point, Elliot, because the unfortunate reality is that smaller firms can't get away with the same stuff big firms can. And
Mm.
it's, the law, supposedly applies to everyone equally, but I think we can tell, if you look at the disciplinary statistics, you can tell that's not entirely true.
Really?
Small firms get hammered for things that big firms would get a slap on the wrist for.
Is really interesting. Man, I've, loved talking to you. It's just been such a great
Thanks,
conversation. I
Elliot.
wish I could have attended this conference with you all. Maybe I can tag along next year.
Hey, if you want, the next one's coming up July 30th through August 1st in Chicago at the International Hotel. You're welcome to attend.
Oh, great. I would love to attend. What about just AI and legal tech? How should firms approach AI tools, AI automation, intake technology without creating ethics problems?
I think how should they approach it? The answer is probably cautiously and with a lot of skepticism toward whoever the individual product provider is.
Yeah.
We've seen, like in the creative market, we've seen an absolute collapse in terms of what you can charge a law firm when it comes to using an AI powered platform or an AI powered program. Just because somebody wraps the word AI into their platform doesn't make it suddenly better. In fact, in a lot of cases, it makes it suddenly worse. Um,
Yeah.
I do think that personal injury firms are one of the market segments that really can benefit from AI in a way that other practices can't. If you are approaching it from an ethics standpoint, the first thing I'd want to know is what's their confidentiality policy? How's your data going to be used? That's Rule 1.6 of the Rules of Professional Conduct. Those are the rules that can get you disbarred if you break them.
Hmm.
Rule 1.6 is going to prohibit disclosure of confidential client information without consent of the client. These programs are likely using data. Many of them likely want to use data and mine the data and train their models on the data. If that happens, there is what's called a data leakage risk, which is essentially that their model would hallucinate or disclose details of the confidential information that you have input into the model, but they would disclose it to somebody else. You want to make sure you understand their model training policy and whether that's able to be turned off. At the same time, I do just want to say my suspicion is that some of the confidentiality concerns with AI are probably a little bit overblown. I'm old enough to remember when there was ethics concerns about whether people could use cloud storage. At one point, there was concerns about whether people could use email within the bounds of legal ethics. There's certain jurisdictions where whether you can use credit cards is still sort of an open question, even though it's really not. I think that this is something where it's a really hot topic right now, but it's going to blow over.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's bring it home with a couple more questions. Actually, I'd love for this one for maybe you guys both to possibly lean in on. Like, what is like a proactive step, PI firms should take this year to reduce ethics risk? Maybe in and Graham, maybe that could be something you took away from the conference as well and your time spent with Ryan. And then Ryan, maybe something you have generally for any personal injury law firm out there to take a really important step this year to really reduce any type of risk in these areas.
For sure. I think probably the number one takeaway that I heard, and this was pretty unanimous across all the conversations, is if you're going to put somebody's face on it, that person should probably give you approval to put their face on it. You shouldn't just steal somebody's likeness and start putting it out there in ads, especially not just kind of like hand wave blank check to a marketing team to let them do it. There should probably be some review out there.
That's a really, really good point, Graham, and that's an absolute truism. Mine is going to maybe not piggyback, but might be a little bit upstream of that. I think every firm needs to have every personal injury firm in particular, because state bars love to come after personal injury firms.
Mhm.
Every personal injury firm needs to have an ethics counsel. I know that sounds self-serving because I'm in the business, but look, most of the people watching this, I won't be able to represent you anyway. I'm not in that jurisdiction. But every personal injury firm needs an ethics counsel. In the same way that people going through a catastrophic injury or a personal injury need to know who the person to call is, you need to know who the person to call is when you have an issue that arises. If you're in the situation where the crisis is already struck, you're not going to make the best decision. You might not find the best person. You're not going to get the best advice. Having a relationship with somebody that's established that you can trust, I think that's super important if you want to protect your firm.
Ryan, are you taking clients on in Texas?
Unfortunately, I am not in Texas, but I know all the good ethics lawyers in Texas. So if
Okay.
you need a referral, I can make one to you.
Yeah, we might have to get that after this call.
All right,
I've
man.
been recently asking just a couple quick fun ones if you
Yeah,
got a little extra time.
of
Are
course.
you currently reside in Hawaii?
No, not anymore.
Oh,
I
okay.
lived in Hawaii. I went to law school at the University of Hawaii, proud graduate of the
Okay.
William S. Richardson School of Law. I was a bar prosecutor there. Years ago, my wife and I had our second baby, and we just needed to move home to get help with our kids, raising the kids.
Gotcha.
I'm in the rare position of being one of Hawaii's only full-time ethics lawyers, but I live in the great state of Alabama. So,
Okay.
uh, yeah, and most of my business is now in California. So I'm primarily practicing California and Hawaii law from Birmingham, Alabama.
Well, if you don't mind me asking, just because I don't know if I'll get another chance to ask this
Sure,
question from someone who spent some serious time in Hawaii, but
of
what was your
course.
favorite restaurant and what was your favorite bite of like type of food to eat in Hawaii?
Oh man, I can talk about this all day.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
a foodie. That's why I
The
got these
the
questions.
the food in Hawaii is elite. It is so good. Asian food in Hawaii is it's its own art form. Hawaii's got a huge Asian culture base. It's its own art form, and you can find so many amazing restaurants. So I'm just gonna give them to you by different culture.
Do it.
All right, all right. My favorite one for Japanese food is a place called Nanzan Giro Giro. It's an omakase place, which means you don't order what's on the menu. I think there's three of them. I think it's like there's one in Paris, there's one in Tokyo, and there's one in Honolulu. So Nanzan
Wow.
was my favorite Japanese spot. Mitch's Sushi is also just elite sushi.
Mm.
It's in a warehouse out by the airport in Honolulu, and the story basically goes that a guy was really good at catching fish, but not good at selling it, and so he flew over one of Japan's very best sushi chefs, and you can get an incredible prefix menu there, include lobster sashimi, which is amazing. If you want Korean food, you got to go to Okim's downtown. Classically trained French chef who started her restaurant cooking on like a hot plate out of a stall and has turned into just one of the best Korean food experiences I've ever had. My Probably my favorite pound for pound restaurant though is a Burmese restaurant. It's called Dagon.
Ah,
So Burma, for those of you who don't know, Burma is sort of nestled between India, China, Thailand, and Laos. And so its food is sort of like all of those if they were mixed together. But Dagon is tremendous. It's one of my favorite places in the world. It's like a if I'm gonna be sent to the electric chair, that's my last meal.
you're getting some Burmese food, I love it. I
Yeah.
live in
Yeah.
Lewisville, Texas, a small suburb of Dallas,
Yeah.
and we just happened to have moved and lived, like, 2 blocks from one of the only Burmese places I know in the
Oh,
area,
cool.
and it's just like a
It's
mom
elite,
and
right?
pop it's a mom and pop shop with I oh, yeah, it's some of the best food I've ever had, I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that.
Here's my other one. There's a spot, it's a Chinese place, it's in the Mauna Kea market, which is like a kinda like a wet market in Chinatown. It's called Blue Seafood, and
Mm.
it is unbelievable. One of my clients took me there last time I was in town, and it was some of the best food I've ever had. It's a Chinese seafood spot, which if you've never had Chinese seafood, it's a place like that where it's, like, really fresh, you haven't lived. It's super good.
Oh my god. I've been thinking about going to Hawaii for I've never been. I know Graham just had a magical trip there a year ago. I wanna go
Yeah.
bad, so I think he just convinced me with food alone.
We need to get one of these, PI lawyer conferences to go to Hawaii, and then,
There we
I'll
go.
I'll come speak for you guys. I'm probably in
Yeah.
Hawaii, like, 4 or 5 times a year. I'll make a trip for you guys.
Well, we've been doing the yearly in Dallas for our CLE, but I don't see why we can't do a CLE in Hawaii once a year as well. Let's expand.
That's right, that's right.
Final question, I'm a big cinephile as well. Do you have a
Uh-huh.
favorite legal or attorney law movie of any kind that really stands out to you that you really love?
Oh, man, and then,
And it doesn't have to be realistic with laws. I
Sure. That's a great question.
Michael Cowan, who we just interviewed, a prolific, trucking attorney down here in Texas, he didn't even hesitate, he goes, "Legally Blonde." I was like, "Whoa, all right." I was like,
That's really good.
I didn't expect that one, but yeah, awesome movie.
So, I don't know this is not good. I don't know if this is very politically correct, but, Liar Liar with Jim Carrey. Uh, I as an ethics lawyer, I love the concept of a lawyer who has to, unabashedly always tell the truth, especially because he's kind of like a slimy defense lawyer,
Yeah.
and my favorite thing is I have had clients before there's this quote that always comes to my head. I've had clients before where they're like, "What do I do? How do I get out of this? Like, what am I ever gonna do to fix this?" And there's this Jim Carrey quote from the character where he goes, "Stop breaking the law, asshole." And I think about that. Somebody comes to me with this intractable problem and they're like, "What do I do? How do I stop this from happening?" I'm always like, "Stop breaking the law, asshole."
That should be your
Yeah.
tagline on your website, man.
Oh,
You
man,
gotta bring
yeah. The clients would just start rolling in if I did
Yeah.
that. I'll give you a parting thought on this. When I took a job as a bar prosecutor, I anticipated that I would just be nailing people to the wall. And what I found as a bar prosecutor and what I have continued to find as a defense lawyer is that 98.5% of lawyers are just truly some of the best people. And they are trying so hard to do the right thing. There is a 1.5% of them that are true bad apples. And I don't take those cases. I mean, when somebody comes to me enough times with a stop breaking the law asshole problem, I cut them loose. I'm like, I'm not a fixer. I mean, I can help you through your problems. I can make things go away, but I'm not putting my neck out on the line. I'm not going to do something that's going to cost me my law license. I think most lawyers though are really, really trying to do the right thing. The quote's only funny because it's in such a minority of cases.
And I think that's a wonderful way to end this. So, Ryan, this has been really fantastic. I love how much brevity and laughs you brought to some actually serious subject matter that we all need to think about as advertisers, marketers, operators of law firms. So, I can't thank you enough for your time today. We really, really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Elliot. And thank you, Graham. I appreciate it. It's good to see you guys.
All right. Take care.